All right, greetings. I'm back again, part two. All right, sorry for the inconvenience. I had a problem with the updating of my computer is new, so forgive me. But we're back again. All right, yes, we're back again with part two. All right, my screen acting up again. I don't know how the heck it switched on this, but forgive me for that. All right, but nonetheless, let's continue on. All right, so we left off at 66. We're back again. All right, so 1066. Forgive me for that confusion, but the computer, I'm still new at this, so we can expect that. All right, give me a second. All right. So the year is 1066, Burby year. 1066, y'all. Very important. And the Gregorian year, the year is 1066, and the Burby year is 2016. In the English midnight year, which is William the Conqueror, William the Bastard. He's ruling in this year. Now, everybody got their own specific calendar to support their existence. All right. William the Conqueror or William the Bastard is of Frankish descent, not Berber descent. Once again, of Frankish descent, not Berber descent. We must understand that. All right. So in the Frankish descent, they have their own calendar. What calendar that is, I don't know. It's probably the Gregorian, Julian, Roman, because we know they invaded England in the 6th century. All right, 597. You know what I'm saying? That was under the Julian calendar or the Roman calendar, which became the Gregorian calendar, and which was created in 1582. All right, by Pope Gregory the 13th. All right, so 1066 on the Gregorian year is in the Berber year, 2016. All right, 2016. And our year now is 2974. All right, 2024 for you. And the Gregorian year is 2024. And our Berber is 2974, like it was in 1066 in the Gregorian year, and the Berber year is 2016. And the English Regnite year, which is mean for an English king, it's William the Conqueror who invaded England. Okay? He invaded England. We know that the Plantagenet crown or the Counts of Anjou royal family were ruling the kings of England when they were fighting against Louis IX, all those who came after him and all those who came before him, which were of the Frankish descent. All right, we must understand that because this is where you draw the line. All right, so 1166. Look at all that's going on around the world. All right, worldwide, highly common. Asia, Europe. William the Duke of Normandy assembles a fleet around 700 warships at Saint Valery sur Main in readiness for the invasion of England. Did y'all hear that? For the invasion of England. Fulk IV, Count of Anjou, known as the Corolla, is at war with his brother Godfrey III, contesting the lands of Anjou and Touraine, left to them by their uncle Godfrey II, the Count of Anjou. All right. So y'all see what's going on in 1166. All right. In 1166, when England is being invaded by William the Conqueror, we are fighting amongst ourselves. Even before we get between Edward the First and what we call the War of the Roses or the First and Second Hundred War, we were back there with us as being the Counts of Anjou, with Godfrey III, quarreling with Godfrey with Fulk IV. Fulk IV, Count of Anjou, known as the Corolla, is at war with his brother Godfrey III, contesting the lands of Anjou and Touraine left to them by their uncle Godfrey II, who were Counts of Anjou. All right. Let's move down. England and Scotland. All right. Harold Godwinson has invaded England. All right. As the confessor died after 24 years of reign at London, the Wintermont of Winton proclaimed Harold Godwinson King of England. All right. Harold Godwinson is crowned King of England probably in the New Westminster Abbey, wherever the confessor funeral takes place not long before its coronation. Harold Hardrada. All right. All these are invading Vikings who came in, invaded England and France. All right. William Duke of Normandy, his army set sail from the mouth of the river Somme, beginning in North Conquest, England. The following days, he lands on the English coast of Pevensey, splits his forces and sails with the main army to Hastings. All right. Then Harold II marched south to the Stamford Bridge, which means the Battle of Stamford Bridge. October 14th, the Battle of Hastings. October 15th, Edgar Atheling proclaimed King of England, but never to crown. He soon forced to submit to the rule of William the Conqueror. Do y'all see this history right here being displayed before y'all? All right, it's right there. Tame becomes the first town in Scotland to be chartered as a royal borough by King Malcolm III. Malcolm III was married to Margaret of Wessex. Margaret of Wessex was the mother of what was her name? Matilda of Anjou, not Matilda of Anjou. What's her name? Matilda of Scotland. And Matilda of Scotland married to Henry I, and who birthed. Let me go back there. I don't want to misquote. I was a long genealogy. Forgive me for the names, but as we can see here, there's a direct line between the Anglo-Saxons and those of the Counts of Anjou. All right, and all this is going down in 1066. All right, but the more important thing I need you to focus on is the calendar that's at play. All right, the Berber calendar, the English reading is William the Conqueror, as we see it. All right, he invaded England. All right, let's go to 56, 1065. As you can see, there is no reading out year available for any English kings for all these, because all these kings were Berbers. All right, all these kings were Berbers. There were different types of Berbers at this particular time, but but nonetheless, these kings were Berber kings. All right, Berber kings de jure versus Berber kings de facto. That becomes the argument now. All right, that becomes the argument now. Let's see here. That becomes the argument now. All right. So as we can see, all these dangers going on in the year 1066. It's also the time where Edward the Confessor, the last true king, all right, dies at the battle with Bunsford, if I'm not mistaken. All right. Confess. All right. So let's move on a little further. 1065. There is no English speaking out yet. So that means that all these kings prior to 1066 were Berber kings. All right, because there's no English reading out there, as we see. Let's touch on that a little bit first. Berber. Berber history, family crest, and coat of arms. The history of the name Berber begins with the Anglo-Saxon tribes of Britain. It is derived from the baptismal name of the son of Barbara. In some instances, the name may have been a nickname to someone such as a Berber or that appeared to be of North African heritage. In such case, the name is a reference to the barbarian coast of North Africa. So in this whole topic right here, you're talking about Berbers, the original Berbers, which were Anglo-Saxon tribes of Britain. And then the association of the name Berber with those of North African descent associated with the Barbary coast, which goes in the war between what we call the Crusade, which end and the Eighth Crusade in Tunis. All right, but we're not associating the nickname or the name associated with the area. All right, we're associated with the name Berber with a people, and the surname Berber of a people is found in London. Okay, that you see here. It's found in London, okay? And the word London is found in two places: Berkshire, which is where Alfred the Great grew up, and Firth, which where the Scottish kings grew up, okay? Where the Scottish kings grew up. The surname Berber was first found in London, where the Barbary spelling was most popular. So the spelling of the name, the popularity of the name, or the association with the name as a nickname is not what we use the name for. We use the name Berber as a surname to a nation of people associated with a territory where those people come from. As we see here, it's associated with what we call London. You know, London was this capital city where those people who lived in London, which happened to be found in two places, as far as defined as the territory. When you look up the Berber family crest of London, it's not associated with the people, it's associated with a place. And London is either Firth or Berkshire. Okay? Very important before you even make that conclusion to come to that standing. Right? So let's see. Berber. Berbers. We see the name Berber comes from London, all right? And we use it associated with people, all right? Not a place, but a people. And it's a name given to a nickname for a person such as the Berber or more to be associated in North Africa. So the word Berber as a surname is also associated with people that's in North Africa called Berbers, all right? So it's very important we understand that every person who associated with Berber must have their calendar to support their existence. Am I right? Everybody can contest that, to attest to that you need a calendar to support your history. And we know if the name Berber was associated in London. We know London was a territory ruled by the Anglo-Saxons. We know prior to 1066, you ain't got no English kings. You got Berber kings because the first English king come in was William the Conqueror, who invaded the territory, which we call England, which is called the land, what you call the island of Britain or the land of Britain, where the territory, what you call London, is situated. All right. Scottish is not in England. Scottish is another island by itself. Okay, so we must understand that. All right, so the Berber. All right, we're gonna go to the word Berber because we're saying we're Berbers. All right, Anglo-Saxon Berbers. All right, from London. That's where our ancestors come from. From London. Not disassociated with the Berbers who were over in North Africa, because when you look at the map of Munda, we know the landmass was connected at one particular time. All right. So we are all the same family. All right. It says here. In fact, for a time, their numerical and military superiority, the best horse riders of that time, enabled some Berber kingdom to impose a tribute on Carthage, a condition that continued into the 5th century BC. All right. Also, due to the Berber Libyan Meswest dynasty rulers in Egypt, 945 to 715 BC. The Berbers in Carthage commanded significant respect, yet probably appeared more rustic than the elegant Libyan pharaohs on the Nile. Correspondingly, in the early Carthage, careful attention was given to securing the most favorable treaties with the Berber chieftain, which included intermarriage between them and the Punic aristocracy. In regards to perhaps to the legends of Debo, the founder of Carthage, as related by the Trogus and Apposite, her refusal to wed a Mauritania chieftain Hierobus might be indicative of the complexity of the politics involved. So they know that we're associating us as Berbers with the territory called Libya, okay? Berberio Libya of the Meswest dynasty, which is also associated with the deity of English called Shoshin. Okay, everybody heard of Shoshin, right? Shoshin or Sheng Sheng or Xing Shang or Shang Xing the first. Shishong was the pharaoh of ancient Egypt and the founder of the 22nd dynasty of Egypt of Meswest ancestry. All right. So when you're talking about Berbers of Meswest, you're going back to this deity, Shishong. All right. Of the recent dynasty, they didn't say of Libya, but they said of Egypt, of Meswest ancestry. Joshing first was the son of Nimrod, a great chief of Ma, and his wife Tishahan, a daughter of the great chief Ma herself. Joshing was thus the nephew of Orgon the Elder, a Meswest king of the 21st dynasty. He is generally presumed to be the Shishak mentioned in the Hebrew, and his exploits are called over the Bookside portal or Concordat. So we must ask ourselves, what calendar are they going by? Are they going by the Egyptian calendar? Are they going by the Hebrew calendar? Or are they going by the Berber calendar? Okay? Because if he was a Berber, then he was not an Egyptian. Because Egyptians and Berbers are two different types of people. All right? Egyptian might act like a Berber, but Berbers and Egyptians are not the same. All right, because the Egyptian got their own calendar, which is the Coptic calendar, and the Berber got their own calendar, which is the Berber calendar. All right, and we know Berber is a name that comes from a territory known to the people who have that surname, which is goes from what we call ancestry or primogeniture intel versus somebody just claiming the name or using the name to fit whatever situation they wanted to fit. All right. So once again, we come back to the calendar. All right. The traditional Berber calendar was not linked to an era with respect to which years were calculated. where traditional ways to compute the years have been preserved by the Tuareg civilization. Years are not expressed with numbers, but each of them as name characterizing it. Started from 1960. Y'all hear this? However, on the initiative of the Academia Berberi of Paris, some Berbers, all right, some Berbers, they might not be the real Berbers or the indigenous Berbers or the ones who have the surname to denote to where they drive that versus somebody who's carrying the name on and existing as if they were those actual Berbers. All right, because now they're talking about starting from 1960. So we're talking about 1960. All right, we don't forget the years that existed before 1960 got here, but 1960. It says some Berbers have begun. It didn't say it was already started, already computed, because it's dealing with computation of the years. And computation of the years dealing with the calendar. All right. So it says begun computing in the year starting from 950 BC. So in 1960, Academia Berberi of Paris, which is a corporation of some Berbers, have begun computing the years starting from 950 BC. All right, which goes back to what we just talked about, Berbers. All right, not associated with the surname, but an area where people who borrowed that name and associate themselves with it, but not associated with the surname of a nation of people. Okay, because the one they're associated with is Shoshin, which, as we see, was a pharaoh of Egypt, and Egypt are Egyptians, and Egyptians are Coptic. Okay, whom they identify as the first prominent Berber in history. He is recorded as being the Libyan origin. All right, so they want to associate this Egyptian in 1960 of being of Libyan origin, and Libyan origins denotes to the Berbers who had a calendar already existed at that particular time prior to 1960, which we're using to qualify our existence, which we say in the Berber year is 2974. Okay? They need to stop playing with us. Let's go to 1 BC. 1 BC. One BC, y'all. You see English reading our year up on there? No. No English kings. It didn't have not. It didn't even put not applicable. They weren't even existed at this time in 950. 950 BC means Berber calendar. We have a Berber calendar here, so it must be Berber calendar. All right, because the Gregorian calendar was not created until 1582 by Pope Gregory the 13th. All right, and the Greek is the 194th Olympe, i.e., meaning the games. All right, and every other nation, the Syrians, Babylonians, the Bengals, the Buddhists, the Burmese, the Byzantine, the Chinese, they got their own reference calendar to support their existence. The Coptic, the Sascordians, the Ethiopians, the Hebrews, and the Hebrews, the world is being created. So that means if the world is being created, then nobody's on the planet. But yet we are. The Chinese are. All right? Come on, man. They got to stop playing with us. Ain't no English week now year here, but Berber calendar. And William the Conqueror became the first English king to invade England. All right? So you must understand that this involves the Crusades. Because the Crusades don't start till 1099. William invaded England in 1066. The Crusades involve English and French kings going back to Godfrey V, Count of Anjou. All right? Son of Folk V, the ruler of Jerusalem. Why? Let's qualify. Godfrey the Plantagenet. I'm gonna stay on this topic till y'all get it right. Y'all remember Louis the 19th had a crown of thorns. All right. We know Louis the 19th was at war, the ninth part self was at war, had the crown of thorns going all the way back to the crucifixion of so-called Jesus from a Roman Catholic teaching. And we know that Louis the 19th was of the Capetine dynasty. We know the Capetine dynasty was one with the Plantagenet dynasty, and the Plantagenet dynasty was started by Godfrey, who we're talking about right now, the son of Folk, the ruler of Jerusalem, all right, who at the time of Folk V, Jerusalem came to its height, all right? So if you want to believe the biblical story or the narrative coming from the Middle Ages, all right, that's more concrete than the biblical story told in your Bible, okay? This is more concrete, I would say. That's crazy. I'm viewer. Godfrey married Empress Matilda, daughter of King of Henry I of England. And Henry I was the son of who? William the Conqueror. And William the Conqueror became what? The first English. All right? William Henry I was the son of William the Conqueror. Okay? His son was Stefan. I mean, parts of, not his son, but the successor of Henry I was Stefan, a Bloaz. We talked about him yesterday. Stefan of Bloaz was the son of Stefan Count of Bloaz. And Stefan Count of Bloaz was married to Adela of Normandy, the daughter of who? William the Conqueror. All right? Come on, these are facts. You can't dispute this. So Godfrey married Empress Matilda, the daughter of King Henry I. All right, by way of his marriage. All right, to what is it? Margaret of Scotland, Matilda Parcel, Matilda of Scotland. All right, Matilda of Scotland. And Matilda of Scotland was the daughter of Margaret of Scotland or Margaret of Wessex, who was married to Malcolm III. All right. So Henry I, the son of William the Conqueror, the first English king. Prior to that, all the kings prior to William the Conqueror, when he invaded England, were Berber kings. All right. Were Berber kings. All right. And we know that Godfrey, the fifth Count of Anjou, was the son of Folk, and he was the ruler of Jerusalem. All right. And this in all involves the Crusades. All right. It all involves the Crusades. Let's move to it. So Godfrey's Plantagenet, the Count of Anjou, father was Folk V. Folk V, also known as Folk the Younger, was the Count of Anjou. As Folk V from 1109 to 1129, the King of Jerusalem, with his wife Melisende from 1131 to his death during their reign. The King of Jerusalem reached its largest territorial extent. Did y'all see that? Their largest territorial extent. Folk was born of Angus between 1089 and 1092, the son of Count of Folk IV of Anjou, and betrayed de Montfort in 1092. Deserted her husband and bigotiously married King Philip of France. Fulk V became Count of Anjou upon his father's death in 1109, and the next year he married Countess Emmerborg or Emmergardy of Maine, cementing Angevin control over the county of Maine. Fulk was originally an opponent of King Henry I. Did you hear that? And a supporter of King Louis VII of France. But in 1118 or 1119, he allied with Henry when he arranged for his married Matilda of Anjou with Henry I's son, William of Valentine, who died in the White Ship. All right? Who died in the White Ship. Fulk went on to bring a pilgrimage to Jerusalem in 1119 or 1120 and became attached to the Knights of Templar. You know, the Knights of Templar, first Grand Master was Hugues Dupin, and he set up shop in what we call First or Fourth in Scotland. All right, he returned late in 1121, after which he began to subsidize the Templars, maintaining 2 knights in the Holy Land for a year. Much later, Henry arranged for his daughter Matilda, of Empress Matilda, marry Fulk's son Godfrey V, Count of Anjou, which he did in 1127 to 1128. All right, these are facts. By 1127, Fulk was preparing to return to Anjou when he received an embassy from King Baldwin II of Jerusalem. Baldwin II had no male heirs, but had already designated his daughter Melchizedek to succeed him. Baldwin II wanted to safeguard his daughter's inheritance by marrying her to a powerful lord. Fulk was a wealthy crusader and experienced military commander and a widower. Experience in the field will prove valuable in the frontier states, always in the grips of war. Okay? Now we just read about, where was it? Where was that at? What's that thing? Where's that? This is Godfrey was one with his brother, Fulk IV. Where was that at? I know I read that somewhere. I think it was the Treaty of Paris. Let me see. No, it wasn't that. Was it the Louis IX? I don't find it. I'll keep moving forward. No, it wasn't that. Let's see. Was it in Godfrey? Let me go back here. Godfrey. You know, all right, I'm gonna move forward. All right, so let's move forward. All right, so we know Fulk V was the ruler of Jerusalem. Let me go back here and share that. Fulk V was the ruler of Jerusalem of the kingdom of Jerusalem. All right, and we know the king of Jerusalem, the first king of Jerusalem was who? Godfrey of Bouillon. All right. The first king of Jerusalem was Godfrey of Bouillon. All right, which was under the jurisdiction of what we call the Roman Catholic Church or the Pope. The fifth was not under the jurisdiction of the Roman Catholic Church. All right. He had their own alliance. His ancestors goes back to the English Reformation, or the English Benedictine Reformation, going back to Folk the Second. Okay, going back to Folk the Second. Let's see where we at. Okay, Folk also Folk the Younger, the Count of Anjou, from 1109 to 1129, the king of Jerusalem, with his wife Melisende from 1131 to his death of the reign of the kingdom of Jerusalem. So that takes us here. All right, that takes us right here. Back to Louis IX. Good, takes us right back to Louis IX. Louis IX, direct descendant of Capetan dynasty. All right, Louis IX, direct descendant of the Capetan dynasty. All right, who was entrusted with the what they call the Crown of Thorns. All right, he also took part in the Eighth Crusades. All right, there was the first Crusade started when the Kingdom of Jerusalem was created, all the way up to the Eighth Crusades. I mean the Eighth Crusade, and the Eighth Crusades resulted in a territory called Tunis. All right, very important. Let's go back that and revisit that real quick. And Parliament held in Paris 24th of March 1267. Louis and his three sons took the cross. On hearing that the reports of the missionary, Louis resolved the land at Tunis, and he ordered his younger brother Charles of Anjou to join him there. The Crusaders, among whom were English Prince Edward the Longshank, landed at Carthage the 7th of July in 1270, but disease broke out at the camp. Louis died in Tunis on the 25th of August in 1270, an epidemic of dysentery that swept through his army. So let's go to Tunis. All right, let's go to Tunis. Or the Eighth Crusade, I should say. Let's go to the Eighth Crusade. I know a lot of this might be repetitive, but it's for good and the sake of the whole. The Eighth Crusade. The Eighth Crusade was the second crusade launched by Louis IX of France. Louis IX of France. This one against the Hafsid dynasty in Tunisia in 1270. It is also known as the Crusade of Louis IX against Tunis, or the Second Crusade of Louis. The crusade did not see any significant fighting as Louis died of dysentery shortly after arriving on the shores of Tunisia. The Treaty of Tunis was negotiated between Crusaders and the Hafsid. No change in territory occurred, though there were commercial and some political rights granted to the Christians. The Crusaders withdrew back to Europe soon after. All right. Situation in the Holy Land. Despite the failure of the Seventh Crusade, which endured in the capital Louis IX of France by the Mamelukes, the king did not lose interest in crusading. He continued to send financial aid and military support to the settlement of Outremer from 1254 to 1266, with the objective of eventually returning to the Holy Land. So this crusade started in 1099, and it stretched from all the way from Crusades, Portugal, Spain, all the way up to Tunis. All right, and ended with the Treaty of Tunis. All right, this is very important. Why? Let's see why. All right, so we know that the Eighth Crusade was a crusade of Louis IX of France, and Louis IX was warned with the Capetine dynasty under the Capetine Plantagenet Wars. All right, the Capetine Plantagenet Wars, and we know that the Plantagenets were family of the Count of Anjou, and the Count of Anjou were ruling Jerusalem at this particular time. All right, so who are the true rulers of Jerusalem and who are the fraudulent rulers of Jerusalem? Which becomes the question that each and every one of y'all should be asking yourself. Who are the frauds and who are the true heirs? All right, because I'm saying the descendants of Folk V, which was Godfrey V, Count of Anjou, son of Folk, and his descendants, known as the Angevin king, are the true heirs. All right, his descendants were Edward I, who established Queen of Pretoria, which you can find right here in the modern day statues in what we call New Jersey. All right, let's get there. Let's go to Tunis. Tunis. Tunis is the capital of the largest city of Tunisia. The greater metropolitan area of Tunis, often referred to as Grand Tunis, has about 2,700,000 inhabitants as of 2020. And is the third largest city in the Maghreb region after Casablanca and Algiers, and the 11th largest in the Arab world. Okay? Let's go right here. Tunis is a transcription of the Arabic name, which can be pronounced as Tunis or Tunas or Tunis. All three variations were mentioned by the 12th century Arab geographer Yaqub el-Hamtawit. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, forgive me. In his Mujam el-Buldan Dictionary of Countries. Different explanations exist for the origin of the name Tunis. Some scholars relate it to the Carthaginian goddess Tanith, Tanit, or Tanut, as many ancient cities were named after patron deities. Some scholars claim that they originated from Tynes, which was mentioned by Diodorus, Siculus, and Polybius. In the course of description of the location resembling present-day Al-Kabash, Tunis, or Old Berber village. Another possibility is that it was derived from the Berber root ends, which means to lie down or to pass the night. The term Tunis can be possibly meant camp at night, camp or stop, or may have referred to as the last stop before Carthage by people who were journeying to Carthage by land. There are also some mention in ancient Roman sources of such name of nearby towns of Tunisia. You hear that? Let's go to history a little bit. They go back to the Almohad dynasty. Let's see. new capital of Tunisia. In 1159, the Almohad al-Bud al-Momin took Tunis, overthrew the last Khorasanid leader, and started a new government in the Kabas of Tunis. The Almohad conquest marked the beginning of the dominance of the city of Tunisia, having previously played a minor role in the Korean and Mahdia. Tunis was promoted to the rank of provincial capital. All right. So now we go to the Almohad Khalifa, or the Almohad Successor, what they call Khalifa or successors. All right, which were the ones who ruled in the Almohad dynasty. Almohad Khalifa. The Almohad Khalifa, from Arabic al-Muwahhidin, are those who profess the unity of God. Or Almohad was a North African Berber Muslim empire founded in the 12th century. Okay, at its height, it controlled much of the Iberian Peninsula, Al-Andalus, and North Africa and Maghreb. The Almohad movement was founded by Ibn Tumar among the Berber Masmuda tribes, but the Almohad Khalifa and its ruling dynasty, known as the Munid dynasty, were founded after his death by al-Mu'min al-Gumni. Around 1120, Ibn Tumar first established a Berber state in Timnel in the Atlas Mountains. These are called desert Berbers or mountain Berbers. They're not the same as us, the Libyan Berbers. We're not the same. Almohad movement originated with Ibn Tamur, a member of the Masmuda and the Amazigh tribal confederation of the Atlas Mountains of southern Morocco. So the Amazigh are the ones who are associated with the creation of that calendar, all right, that we talked about by the Academia Berberia of Paris, all right, in 1960. These are the ones who created that calendar and backdated it to Shoshin the first, all right? You must understand that. All right, you must understand that. But we are already existing with our calendar back in 1 BC. We are already existing as Berbers. We ain't spell it in Arabic, right? We didn't spell it in Arabic. All right. In fact, as we saying, Berber. In fact, for a time, the numerical military superiority, the best horse riders of the time, enabled some Berber kingdoms to impose tribute to Carthage, a condition that continued into the 5th century BC. All right. Also due to the Berbero-Libyan Meswest dynasty ruled in Egypt in 947 BC. So 945 BC come before 5th century BC because the numbers come down. So the Meswest dynasty goes back to the Libyan king known as Shoshin the First, who is mentioned in your Bible. All right. But we know that the Berber Academy didn't backdate it to Shoshin until 1960 for a group of Berbers, not the Berbers who already existed before 1960 and even before then, all the way back to 1 BC. Okay, right here. One BC. What you call 1 BC in the Berber year is 950. What that calendar said, it didn't say Gregorian calendar. It didn't say GC. It said BC. So the year could not possibly be 1 BC if the Gregorian calendar says 1 BC, because the Gregorian calendar didn't come in existence until what? 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII. We know that the Gregorian mission by Pope Gregory I was in the 6th century BC. But yet the Berber calendar was already in existence because it says BC. You have the Berber calendar right there. So that means the year must have been 950 BC. All right? 950 BC. I mean, it's just as plain as the fingers on your hands. All right, so let's go back here as we come to our closing. Louis the Ninth, right, and the Eighth Crusade. We already went from the Ninth Crusade to the Eighth Crusade, and the Eighth Crusade ended in Tunis. And the Tunis was a territory that was inhabited by Libyan Berbers, all right? Not Greeks or Egyptians, all right? By Libyan Berbers. And the history concerning them is portrayed out in the 13th century. It says the Eighth Crusade was the second crusade launched by Louis the Ninth of France, but the Eighth Crusade of all the Crusades. All right, going back to the first Crusades when the Crusaders came into the picture. All right, it is also known as the Crusade of Louis the Ninth against Tunis. All right, against who? The Berbers. Against the Berbers. All right, the Berbers calendar is way in existence because the Louis the French kings are using the calendar as the English kings used when they came in with William the Conqueror in 1066. All right, they're using the same calendar to tell their story. All right. So Louis the Ninth is present in the Eighth Crusade, and Louis the Ninth is responsible for the Shroud of Turin, what they call the Crown of Thorns. Let's go back there. It says once again, in 1238, Baldwin II, the late Latin Emperor of Constantinople. When we talk about Constantinople, we're talking about the only Constantinople in the 4th century. Anxious to obtain support for his tottering empire, offering the crown of thorns to Louis IX of France. All right, we know that a crown of thorns goes back to what they supposed to be crucified Jesus with, as interpreted by Godfrey of Bouillon, who founded the kingdom of Jerusalem. All right. And we know he was not a true king of Jerusalem because the true kings of Jerusalem were the Counts of Anjou. All right. They did not descend from the Robertian family, from what we call Charles de Gaulle, because the Robertinians descended from Charles de Gaulle, who were descended from the Carolingians and the Merovingians, all right, who were not descended like the Anglo-Saxon Berbers, who were descendants of God, because they were the gods, all right. Louis the Ninth, okay. So Louis the Ninth, a Frankish king, all right, from the kingdom of France. Okay. King of France. Let's go there. King of France. All right. Let's look at this. See the difference. List of Frankish kings. France was ruled by monarchs from the establishment of the Kingdom of West Francia in 843, okay? Until the end of the Second French Empire, 870, with several interruptions. Classical French historiography usually regards Clovis the first king of the Franks as the first king of France. However, historians today consist that such kingdom did not begin until the establishment of West Francia during the dissolution of the Carolingian Empire. Okay? They mention Clovis the first. All right? They mention Clovis the first. Frankish kings. 843. Scroll all the way down. Charles the Bald. All right? Louis II, the Stammer. Louis III, Carloman II. Charles III, the Fat. Then you got the Robertian dynasty. Odo. All right? Odo. Charles III, the Simple. Robert I. Boston dynasty. Rudolph. Carolingian dynasty. Louis IV. Lothair. Louis V. Then you got the Capetine dynasty from 987. Hugues Capet. You see it right there. Hugues Capet. This is the Kingdom of France we're talking about, y'all. Robert II. Henry I. Philip I. Louis VII. The Sixth. Louis VII. Philip II. Louis VIII. Louis IX. All right? Those are the Frankish kings. Now let's look at the Counts of Anjou. The Counts of Anjou. The Counts of Anjou were the rulers of the county of Anjou, first granted by Charles the Bald. We know Charles the Bald was a Frankish king. We just read their bloodline. He was part of the Robertians. So it says the Count of Anjou was the ruler of the county of Anjou, de facto rulers, first granted by Charles the Bald in the 9th century to Robert the Strong. Then it says who? Ingalaire and his son. Now, he ain't talking about the same people. It said Ingalaire and his son, Folk the Red, were viscounts until Folk assumed the title of count. The Robertians and the Capitan king were distracted by war with the Vikings and other concerns and were unable to recover the county until the reign of Philip of August more than 270 years later. Okay? You see that? Ingalaire male line ended with Godfrey II, subsequent Counts of Anjou were descended from Godfrey's sister Emergardi of Count of Godfrey of the Second of Catinius. Their ethnic descendants who included the Angevin kings of England, all right, who continued to hold these titles and property until the French monarchy gained control over the area. In 1360, the county was raised into the dukedom, becoming known as the Dukes of Anjou, subsequently leading to the Duchess of Anjou. Okay? See the connection, y'all. Robertians, which are Frankish kings, which are not the same house as the house of Ingalaire. All right? Ingalaire, Folk the Red, Folk the Second, Godfrey, Folk the Third, Godfrey the Second, Godfrey the Third, Folk the Fourth, Godfrey the Fourth, Folk the Fifth. Then there come the House of Plantagenet. Right there. Henry Kirkmantle, Henry II. Richard I, Lionheart, time immemorial. Arthur, Duke of Brittany, that's when the problem came in. All right. Then came the Capetine dynasty. All right. Here's Capet. Started this dynasty back in what? What did it say? 987. Let's go back and visit this before I come to my closing. List of Frankish kings. The House of Capet, 987. All right. 987. So let's hit that. The House of Capet. House of Capet. The House of Capet ruled the Kingdom of France from 97 to 1328. Did y'all hear what I just said? It was the most single line of the Capetine dynasty, itself derivative dynasty from the Robertians, not the House of Ingolier. All right? The Counts of Anjou, separate line. The House of Capet, which ended with the Robertians, where William the Conqueror descended down from, were other kings who descended down from Clovis I. And they were called the Kingdom of France. They ruled the Kingdom of France. All right? So let's see the Kingdom of France. See this map. This is North America possessions and their empire that's west of that. I mean, east of that. All right? All the territory belonging to the Plantagenet crown. All right? Yes, the Plantagenet crown. Let's read. The High Middle Ages. High Middle Ages, France and Middle Ages, the Capetine dynasty. The Catholics shared the fate of their predecessors. After the intermittent power struggle between the two dynasties, that existed in 987 and Hughes Capet, Duke of France and Count of Paris, established the Capetine dynasty on the throne. So we know that the Capetine and Plantagenet dynasty came to a truce by way of what we call the Treaty of Paris in 1259. Okay? They said the older order left new dynasties immediate control of little beyond Middle Sening and adjacent territories, while powerful territory lords such as the 10th and 11th century Counts of Blois, that goes into what we call Stefan. Okay? Stefan. A Blois, let's see. These are all the accounts of Blois. Let's see if we find Stefan. And Henry. And Stefan. Odo, Theobald. Odo. Stefan, right there. Y'all see that? Stefan, right there. We talked about him yesterday. right, so let's going back down. Let's go back out of here. Council Bloaz. We're back into what we call the Capitan, or the Kings of France, or the Kingdom of France, okay? All right, the Kingdom of France is the historical name of the umbrella term given to various political entities of France in the medieval and early modern period. It was one of the most powerful states in Europe since the High Middle Ages. So that's the most concentration time. It's the High Middle Ages. In the High Middle Ages, it's the time going into the huge capet. All right, huge capet. We must understand that. Huge capet. Why is this important? When you go right here to New France, or the New France is ruled by who? The Kingdom of France. New France was a territory colonized by France in North America, beginning with the exploration of Gulf St. Lawrence by Jacques Cartier in 1534, and ending with the succession of New France in Great Britain and Spain and the Treaty of Paris of 1763. Now you had the Treaty of Paris of 1259. You had the Treaty of 1259 with Louis IX and what was it, Henry II? Let's go back there. All right, so let's just read that again before we go back there and close it. So New France was a territory here in North America under the jurisdiction of the territory of under the power of what we call the Kingdom of France. Status. It was a viceroyalty of the Kingdom of France. All right, going back to Francis I and Louis the 15th. Okay, it's into the 16th century. All right, but we got to take this all the way back to the what we call the 10th century. All right, which Hughes Capet, which was ruling the Kingdom of France at that particular time. Okay, we must understand that. We must take it back to that particular starting point. Kingdom of France, under jurisdiction of New France. All right. The area around the Lower Seine became a source of particular concern when Duke William of Normandy took possession of the Kingdom of England by the Norman conquest in 1066. Prior to that, everything was dealing with Berber, the Berber calendar. All right, with the Berber people, not those people who wanted to be Berbers and be associated with the Berber people, because their calendar, to backdate their existence, didn't come until 1960. All right, and they're using the Gregorian calendar to validate their existence in 1960, going back to Shoshin, because it's told according to the Hebrew calendar. All right, but nobody's actually using the Berber calendar because they're not those people. All right. The area Lower Seine became the source of particular concern with Duke of Normandy. Duke of Normandy took possession of the Kingdom of England, took it by the Norman conquest, making himself and his heirs the king's equal outside of France. You hear that? Where he was still nominally subject to the crown. Henry II, all right, inherited the Duchy of Normandy and the County of Anjou. He's the son of Godfrey V, Count of Anjou, son of Fulk, ruler of Jerusalem, and married France's newly single ex-queen, Eleanor of Aquitaine, all right, a Frankish king, all right, and Eleanor of Aquitaine was, if I'm not mistaken, Louis VII. All right. She divorced Louis VII and got married to Henry II of England. All right. Henry II of England, who we're talking about now. So Henry II inherited the Duchy of Normandy and County of Anjou and married France's newly single ex-queen Eleanor of Aquitaine. She was married to Louis VII, that we just read, who ruled much of southwest France in 1152 after defeating a revolt led by Eleanor and three of their four sons. Henry had Eleanor imprisoned, made Duke of Brittany his vassal, and in fact ruled the western half of France as a greater power than the French throne. However, disputes among Henry's descendants over the division of his French territories, coupled with John of England's lengthy quarrel with Philip II, allowing Philip to recover influences over much of the territory after French victory of the Battle of Bavines in 1214. The English monarch maintained power only in southwest districts of what we call Aquitaine. All right. So in closing, bring you back here to Clovis culture. In closing, the Clovis culture, prehistoric Paleo-American archaeological culture named for distinct stones and bones tools found in close association with the Pleistocene fauna, initially two Columbian mammoths of Blackwater locality, number one, near Clovis, New Mexico. There's a place called Clovis, New Mexico, all right, in North America. Okay. So Clovis culture was found in Clovis, New Mexico. Right here with this. The name Clovis. Okay, here we go. Yeah, here we go. In closing, Clovis culture here in North America, i.e. New Mexico. It says the Clovis began in 1906. All right, 1906, the same year the Berber calendar came up with the backdating the Berber calendar. All right, and from the Academia of Berber of Paris. The Clovis began in 1906 with the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway was being constructed through the area of railway engineers were instructed to locate and buy the first level section of land west of Texaco, on which to build a town site and railroad facility. The land was bought on October 2nd, 1906, and the railroad began offering 2 lots for sale on May 1st, 1907, at the first known as Riley Switch. The town was reportedly renamed Clovis by the station master's daughter, who was studying about Clovis, the first Catholic king of France at the time. The settlement built up quickly in 1909, and it was incorporated then. All right. So as you can see, everything that you have here is borrowed from the stories told of the past. All right. So make sure I didn't forget anything. Treaty of Paris. So all those We're familiar with territorials here in North America based upon treaties. And the first one being the Treaty of Paris in regards to the successive territory that was governed by the Kingdom of France and New Spain, known as New Spain and New France, which was succeeded to Great Britain, i.e. the Kingdom of Spain, England, Ireland, and Scotland. You need to understand the Treaty of Paris of 1253, because this treaty supersedes the Treaty of Paris of 1763. All right. Also to the Treaty of Westminster of 1756. All right, which was preceded by the Treaty of Paris of 1763. So the Treaty of Paris, also in the Treaty of Abbeville, was a treaty between Louis IX, King of France, and Henry III, the son of John. All right. At the end of the 100-Year War between the Capitan and the Plantagenet dynasty, who the Church of England are descended from. All right. Henry III. In closing, Henry III, also known as Henry of Westchester, was King of England, Lord of Ireland, Duke of Aquitaine from 1216 until his death in 1272. The son of King John and Isabella of Aquitaine, Henry assumed the throne when he was only 9 in the middle of the First Barron War. Cardinal Gualabichelli declared the war against the rebel barons to be religious crusade. Hear that? And Henry's force, led by William Marshall, defeated the rebels at the Battle of Lincoln and Sandwich in 1217. Henry promised to abide by the Great Charter of 1225, a later version of the Magna Carta of 1215, which limited royal power and protected the rights of the major barons. His early rule was dominated by the Hubert de Burgh and Peter des Roches, who reestablished the royal authority after the war. In 1230, the kings attempted to reconquer the provinces of France that had once belonged to his father, but the invasion was a debacle. A revolt by William Marshall's son Richard broke out in 1232, ending the peace settlement negotiation by the church. All right. Just close out with this one. Following the revolt, Henry ruled England personally rather than governing through senior ministers. He traveled less than previous monarchs, invested heavily in a handful of the favorite palaces and castles. He married Eleanor of Provence, with whom he had 5 children. Henry was known for his piety, holding lavish religious ceremonies and giving generously to charities. The king was particularly devoted to the figure of Edward the Confessor, not Saint George, but Edward the Confessor, whom he adopted as his patron saint. He extracted huge sums of money from the Jews in England, not us, the true Jews, but the fake Jews. All right, ultimately crippling their ability to do business. And as attitudes toward the Jews hardened, he introduced the statute of Jewry, attempted to segregate the community. In fresh attempts to reclaim his family land in France, he invaded Poitiers in 1242, leading to the disaster in 1295 by his descendant, Edward I. All right? Edward I. All right? So with that, I end this lecture. And I hope that all those who view this lecture will understand how important it is to understand English and French history, relatively being associated with the Europe continent, as well as the continent over here, because they're all one and the same. All right, they are one and the same. What was promised long ago is still promised now. Why? Because it is an inheritable and an inheritance that was promised by your ancestors, who are descendants of Ingalier and Gibeons, known as Folk the First. All right, Folk the First. All right, so we love you all. We mean you no harm, and we hope that all of you who are under the auspices of the King's voice to recognize who the King is, and there with you, your prize is with you. And with that, we'll say, as we always say, peace.